Lockdown 4 is over, or is it? What we have now is lockdown lite. Us poor Victorians have been demoralised so much that we're grateful for the smallest of mercies, whether it's our kids being allowed to go to school or the privilege of being able to open our businesses, albeit in a manner that is unprofitable and unsustainable. And we were thrilled to be allowed outdoors without masks. But wait, that little liberty has again been taken away, with Acting Premier James Merlino announcing yesterday that the outdoor mask mandate will remain after it was withdrawn. Withdrawn, that's not a word, is it? After its withdrawal was announced just 24 hours earlier. Of course, there's no solid evidence that backs up masks being worn outdoors, but when did that stop the state government from inflicting these draconian measures on millions of long-suffering Victorians? Lockdown 4.0 may be formally over, but it's been replaced with lockdown lite, with harsh restrictions that are illogical and full of contradictory advice. You have to wear a face panty when walking alone in a park, but you can sit unmasked indoors at a cafe or pub. What clown world medical advice did the government base that rule on? Under these new rules, you can sit in a restaurant with 50 other diners, visit busy shopping centres and line up for a Bunnings sausage sizzle, but you can't have your fully vaccinated mother around for a cup of tea. One can understand why the Andrews government refuses to release the medical advice behind its decisions. So much of what we are told is hogwash, Nick. It's hogwash. That's what I want to say. It gets even worse. In regional Victoria, you can go to a brothel. Heck, you can go to 4 or 5 brothels in a day if you feel like it, but you can't have a family gathering due to the strict limit of only 2 adults visitors allowed per day in private homes. But brothels and strip clubs can have up to 100 people per venue in regional Victoria. And that's the same number that amusement parks are allowed. Again, how does that make any sense? In Melbourne, which was once the world's most livable city, you can visit the drug injecting room in Richmond, but not a gymnasium. Pilates is out of the question, but injecting ice is considered a medical necessity. This is the health advice we are asked to blindly follow. And on what medical advice did the Victorian government extend the 5-kilometre travel radius to 10 kilometres and then 25 kilometres? On what evidence do they allow 50 people for funerals but only 10 people for weddings? By now, the only people not questioning, Nick, these contradictions and blindly supporting livelihood and liberty-destroying measures are those who have been scared witless. Have you been scared witless, Nick?
Well, Rita, you're an outstanding journalist, not so much a great epidemiologist, I've got to say. Those settings in Victoria, of course, are based on the advice of the Chief Health Officer, which in turn is based on the advice of leading medical minds. So I know some of those things seem sharply unfair, but that's the nature of pandemics. They tend to be pretty awful sorts of things.
So the fact that there's no medical advice, solid advice anywhere around the world that shows masks outdoors are a good idea. You just ask us to blindly follow it because a medical professional has recommended it. Is it not strike you as strange that New South Wales seems to have such different medical advice to what Victoria is getting?
Well, the advice in New South Wales is based on the circumstances in New South Wales. They haven't had a breakout like we've had over the last 3 or 4 weeks now. And so the settings in New South Wales you would expect to be different
they had a
to
large
Victoria
outbreak.
Based on medical advice. They had a large
outbreak earlier this year. They've had several outbreaks. They just react to them very differently.